Hi everyone, my name is Jackman. Delighted to be back for a second week of Beyond 80. What a weekend of Six Nations action, late drama in Edinburgh, a very tense affair in Twickenham, and as predicted, a pretty one-sided win for Ireland over Italy yesterday in the Viva Stadium. So later on I'm going to be chatting to Sam Larner, looking at all the key data from the games, and also we're going to look at my key moments that decided where the games were won and lost. Now let's get into it. Most of the talk about the Scotland-France game has been the try and non-try decision by the TMO at the end of the game. But the moment I've picked out, the scrum, that led to the Louis Barry try, that I feel Scotland would be furious with how they organised pre-scrum and how the defensive system let them down. So let's take a look first of all how the try was actually scored. We know Louis Barry is one of the fastest players in international rugby, and you can't give him that space in the backfield that Scotland gave him. And also let's have a look at how Scotland could have, or should have, set up defensively to counteract his speed. So looking at the scrum and where it's positioned, it's 20 yards in from the touchline. 99% of teams in this situation will bring their 10 across to the blind side to cover that space. Scotland decide to leave Finn Russell with his three other outside backs on the right-hand side and leave their 9 and their 14 to cover this space. A couple of big errors here for me. One, you should have brought Finn Russell across. 2, 9 should have put pressure on at source. He needed to put pressure on the France number 8 to make sure he goes to the right instead of going to the left. But unfortunately, he backs off, which allows France break into that blind side, and eventually it's Finn Russell who makes a tackle. Then it's a brilliant pass from the Garak across the face of 2 defenders to Barry, and he puts the ball over the top and scores uncontested in the backfield. So I've got 2 examples here of how Scotland could have defended this a little bit better. First of all, bring Finn Russell over and make France play on the open side. And again here, you'll go soft, your open side will get to make the tackle, and you'll be able to use the touchline as an extra defender, and they would have dealt with a threat. So for the second example, Scotland have left just one player on the blind side. But here we see Finn Russell come from behind the scrum to make the tackle. But more importantly here, it's the work in the backfield. So we're looking for wings on strings. So when Patterson closes, the Scottish open side is all the way across here to pick up that space and deal with the threat. Scotland would be absolutely furious that multiple defensive errors in one play cost them a chance of a huge home win against France. And Steve Tandy will be looking for a big reaction in 2 weeks' time. There's been a lot of talk about England's evolving attacking and defensive systems. But when push came to shove on Saturday, they went back to their kicking game, the Steve Borthwick model that served them so well to get to a World Cup semi-final. And it was a key factor in them being able to win the arm wrestle against Wales at the weekend. So I'm going to look at 2 attacking kicks that England won back that for me played a big role in deciding who won this game. So Steve Borthwick is very lucky to have the luxury of bringing on experienced players like Dan Cole and Danny Kerr to help close out the game. The clip I'm going to show is a box kick from Danny Kerr, which has amazing hang time, okay? But more importantly, once Freeman gets past that kick escort of Wales, he has the athletic ability to win that aerial contest in the air against Johan Lloyd, and that possession gives England really good field position at a time when Wales were starved of the ball. The second clip is a contestable from George Ford. George Ford had a massive second half. His 50-22 was huge in terms of swinging momentum back towards England. But this is towards the end of the game. After a bit of kick tennis, puts up a spiral bomb, which was chased by Stewart. Again, he gets past that kick escort and wins the ball back in the air. Brilliant possession for England at a time when Wales were just looking to have the ball. So Dan Biggar on TV after the game spoke about how kicking has such an influence over deciding who wins games at international level. England have that in their locker. Despite trying to evolve their game, that's their go-to. And certainly Ireland and other teams who have to play England will be looking at as a big area of strength as this tournament goes on. So there are my key moments from 2 of the games. Now we're into the Insights by Sage section of the show with Sam Larner. Sam, welcome back to the Insights by Sage section of the show. What stood out to you in round 2?
Well, for me, the first thing is Welsh exits. So we talked last week about red zone entries, and this is really the flip side of that. This is what happens when you're in your own 22 and you need to escape. This was a big problem for Wales. They had 13 exits in the game, and they gave the ball back to the English just 43 metres from the Welsh line on average. And in actual fact, 5 of those 13, they gave the ball back 30 metres from the Welsh line. And on 2 of those, they gave it back in the 22. One of those led to the Ben Earl try.
I think Gatlin after the game said this is a young team. They will get there, they've got to be patient, and sometimes that's an issue for young players, understanding the balance between running, which they had to do at half time against Scotland, but against England when they were locked in a tense battle, being able to play the game in the right areas, and it's something obviously they're going to have to improve upon.
Absolutely. I think one of the concerns there is that they had some early success in that first half where it looked like they might be able to escape their 22 by bunging. And obviously that's ideal if you can do it, you can put the pressure on the opponent. But that also went wrong. And really in that first period where Wales were in the ascendancy, they got pegged back by that bang old try, and it really meant that later on, once that ascendancy stopped, England were close enough to take home the victory.
And I think from a Steve Borthwick England point of view, that shows that they're making right progress.
Absolutely. Well, I think one of the things that we saw in the World Cup, and one of the things that we still see in the Six Nations, even though England have got a little bit more exciting, is that they want to play in the right areas. We look at the possession in the different halves. So Wales played 37% of possession in their own half, and for England it was just 31%. So England weren't interested in playing the ball if it was in their own half. They wanted to put it into the Welsh half, and as we know, Wales struggled to exit, and so England just piled that pressure on.
So anything else from the England-Wales game that stood out to you?
I think we saw a much improved line-out from last week, but Wales still avoided going to the back, and so they struggled to get much quality possession, especially outside England's 22, where you want to go to the back and kind of try and attack wide. So England, really limited Wales, and actually when Elliot Dee went off and Ryan Elias came on, we saw the Welsh line get quite a lot worse. It wasn't as bad as last week, but it has got a lot worse. So I really think that that's going to be a concern, and also the scrum as well.
Yeah, I think England have the luxury of having a little bit more strength and depth, particularly with all the injuries in the Welsh squad. Some of the players are unavailable. Being able to bring on Ellis Genge and Dan Coles for Steve Borthwick was a huge boost.
I think that's one of the things we're going to see a lot of in this Six Nations, is that England have got that unbelievable strength and depth. Wales are battling well in these opening two matches, but they are missing some of that depth. And so if they are to lose Johan Lloyd at fly half, or if they're to suffer a few front row injuries, they're going to really be down to the bare bones. And I think that's when some of these cracks which are starting to appear will just be forced open.
So what about Edinburgh? How did Scotland lose that game?
Well, this is two games in a row where Scotland have really tried as hard as they can to cough up a lead. So in this game, we're going to talk about Scotland really parking the bus. It's a term we hear a lot of in football, and Scotland brought that into rugby. When Scotland were either losing or fewer than 4 points in the lead, they carried 4.7 times per every kick. However, when they went more than 4 points in the lead, they actually kicked more than they carried. They essentially really stopped playing.
As a fan or as a coach, you're saying game management, you've got a lead now. Particularly for me, I remember when France were 16-10 behind, and you can understand why Scotland want to kick the ball away, want to try and make France run from deep. But I feel their game is better suited to actually keeping ball in hand. And when they were doing that, they had France in all kinds of trouble. So it's probably one of those situations where statistically maybe they're doing the right thing, but it mightn't suit the skill set and the profile of that Scottish team. And they need to get better at that. They can't be throwing away leads like they did the last 2 weeks.
Absolutely. I think for Scotland, one of the main things is, why were they 16-10 up? It was because they were carrying the ball, they were attacking from deep, they were putting that French team under a lot of pressure, and really they stopped. And they did the same thing last week as well. So if we take the last Scottish try, which was that Dylan Banyamerva try, and the last Welsh try, they carried just 10 times and Wales carried 79 times in that 26-minute period. So this is twice in 2 weeks that Scotland have gone away from what was successful and towards a game plan that maybe in the future can be successful, but at the moment isn't.
Now, Camille, what about France? Huge win for Fabien Galtier. I know it was controversial at the end, but what did they do right in this game that they can actually start to build on and get back as being contenders for the Six Nations?
Well, I think for France, it's all about just staying in these games. Obviously, last week they couldn't do that. This week they stayed in that game and they managed to overcome some of those poor periods that they were having. They have an unbelievable bench when they bring that on, and it's going to be the matching, if not the bettering, of every team they're going to face in the Six Nations. So I think that's one thing, is just staying in the games. One thing that we have seen a lot of so far is that they've been quite loose with the ball. So we're going to talk about Italy next, but they have been about as inaccurate as Italy have been. But they have those moments of brilliance, as you talked about earlier, the Bilbao try. Just if you're only a few points behind, moments like that can win the game, and obviously they did on Saturday.
Okay, and let's talk about Italy now. You said they're not efficient with the ball, they don't look after the ball. Obviously, a one-sided game. I mean, what does Italy need to do to make improvements this tournament?
We talked about a few of them last week, which was play more than the opposition's half. So they have made some changes to that. So, for example, they were kicking every 6.5 carries in the World Cup. They've dropped that to 4.1 in this Six Nations. So that suggests they're being a little bit more pragmatic, a little bit more sensible, trying to play a little bit more than their opponent's half. And actually, they were better against Ireland than they were against England at getting out of their own half. Obviously, the score sheet wouldn't suggest that, but I think that's given them more reasons to be optimistic. They're also kicking shorter, so they're kicking 23 metres per kick rather than 37 metres at the World Cup. That gives them more competitive ball, gives them more opportunities to attack a broken defence. And so I think that there's a lot to be optimistic about for Italy, although we didn't see much of that on Sunday. There are still big issues. So accuracy is a massive issue. 11% of their passes on the weekend were classified as bad passes, either behind the receiver or dropped balls. And they cough up a turnover roughly every 7 carries. Just for context, Ireland are twice as good as that. They'll go 14 carries before they cough up a turnover.
Okay, I saw a stat about Ireland's attack that their passes are the shortest passes in the Six Nations, 5.8 metres on average. How does that affect the opposition in terms of their defensive systems?
Well, we saw on Sunday Ireland had 50% of their passes shorter than 5 metres. We can obviously track that now with the data and the ball. And 122 passes in total were shorter than 5 metres. No other team had more than 66, so basically twice as many. I think what you can see in Ireland, and I really do think they've probably got the most aesthetically pleasing attack in the entire world, is a lot of those short passes just moving just slightly outside of the defender. We often hear people looking at stills or clips from the game where they say, why didn't the ball or why didn't the attack just move the ball out wide? There was so much space there. But in reality, when you see these professional teams and these professional defences, they'll get men across there in no time. So what Ireland are doing is, rather than trying to ping the ball left and right, they're going at the defenders and trying to just shift the ball, maybe even less than a metre, just to get on the outside shoulder of those defenders, and that's so hard to defend. Either you get through, or if not, you get those positive carries and you get those quick ruck speeds, which again we saw this week.
And Sam, visually Ireland look really good, obviously 2 bonus point wins. Is there anything from the data that would give Andy Farrell concern or give hope to opposition coaches and fans?
They were quite inefficient on Sunday. So they had 12 22 entries into Italy's half, or into Italy's 22, but they didn't come away with enough points, really, so they dropped below that efficiency that they set against France. Now, obviously, France are the better side. You expect them to be more efficient against Italy than they were against France. So I think he will rightly probably be picking that up as an opportunity that they should have done more. Really, Ireland should have been coming away with this game with a 50-point lead or 50-point win, if not more. I think he'll be very happy with the 0 points, but I think there's more efficiencies to come, which is a scary prospect for their next 3 opponents.
Thanks very much, Sam. Looking forward to seeing how these numbers change over the course of the competition and who can find an edge, no matter where that is. So some really interesting stats there from Sam about the Ireland-Italy game. But for me, the key moment was the Calvin Nash try. Ireland's attack is on fire, 11 tries in 2 games. So this try was late in the game, but for me, it explains and shows how Ireland are able to create space for their wingers on the edge through how they set up with their forwards in the middle of the field. So it starts with a ruck on the left-hand side in the opposition 22. And its key factor here is Ireland now have 2 playmakers on the field at the same time, with Harry Byrne having come on and Jack Crowley still playing 10. You got 3 replacement forwards who work back to get outside Crowley, and you have Harry Byrne in the boot. So quick ball from Gibson Park to Crowley, to Josh van der Fleer, number 20, and then out the back to Harry Byrne. And that's actually started to stretch that Italian defence. Now you've got 2 more forward runners running a hard line off Harry Byrne, but he goes out the back to big Stuart McCluskey. And this is a key moment here. He gets his hands free in contact and is able to get that offload back to Jack Crowley. But again, here's the work rate off the ball. Gibson Park sweeps back around off the ball from left to right to get that pass from Crowley. And then as the Italian fullback tries to close, he gets a great pass to Calvin Nash, who despite a strong scramble from the Italian defence, does enough to get in the corner. So Ireland's attack is all about ball movement. Short passes to multiple runners. So Warren Gatland and Wales will come to Dublin looking to find a way to shut down this Ireland attack. But so far, it's difficult to see how teams are going to do it. From an Irish point of view, I think an impressive factor in yesterday's game was how those replacement players, how those youngsters performed. Tom O'Toole, Craig Casey, Harry Byrne, all had really strong games for Ireland. For Italy, they have a young team, average age 25. They want to play attacking rugby. I think Gonzalo Quesada is just struggling to get that balance of playing in the right areas, game management, but he's a very good coach. They've got young players who can go on and do great things. So I think this Italian team will be a force in time. Thanks for watching Beyond 80. Join us in a couple of weeks when we look at all the action from round 3.